Hello everybody, how are you? Good afternoon. Alright, so here we have Young Madam. I've painted bits and pieces of her, the skin's done, and the way I normally paint a figure is to work my way around it in as much that think about the way we and everything was created. I'll paint the sky first because the universe was there first with the Big Bang. And then the Earth and the planets arrived, so I'd put the planets in and your background, and then the trees arrived, and then the humans eventually turned up, and the humans wore clothes. So I would paint all of the skin first to make sure that I've got it right. And to be honest with you, if you're doing a face, a person, get that face in there, because if you land up with a minger, let alone a munter, you want that to go in the bin and you don't want to have done all the other work first. Now please take note, those phrases are my son's, not mine. I've been sitting at the drawing board before now and he's come in and he said to me, Mum, that one's not even a minger, it's a munter. So there you go, youth speak. Not such a youth anymore. Okay. The paints I'm using, I have here, and I'm thinking about the colours for her hair. I want her to be, we're going to go for a redhead, I think. Should we do a redhead, everybody? I've got, this here is beautiful quinacridone gold. I love that colour, love it, because you can use it so thinly. All of these colours are transparent. And then I've got here, this is burnt sienna, scrumptious warm orange, orangey brown. And then I'm using burnt umber up here. And I'll be having a teeny tiny bit of, this is Payne's Grey, and we'll use a smidgen of white at the end. Now if you're looking at these two colours and thinking to yourself, crikey, they're very similar, aren't they? Well, yes, they are, and the reason for that, purely and simply, is because quinacridone gold and burnt sienna are made of the same three pigments, and you're seeing the same three pigments here when they're kind of in mass concentrated like this. This didn't used to be. It used to be a single pigment quinacridone gold, and then about 5-6 years ago, it was decided that it couldn't be singular anymore because it was too expensive, and that meant that it was a triple colour and the purists were screaming blue murder about it. I want to tell you here that we've got some of this painted and I want to protect some of it. Areas here and perhaps down her neck, her ears. And to do that I'm going to use my masking fluid. You can mask on top of paint, don't worry about it, you can do it. And you've just got to be positive with that brush, don't fluffy brush. All I'm going to do is use a bar of soap, and I want to fill this brush with the soap. I'm rolling it to get rid of the bubbles, I don't want those bubbles. And then if I take my masking fluid, I've given it a bit of a shake to move the pigment around in the bottom of it, the blue colour. And I'm coming in to cover her ears, and I want to cover the side of her little face down there. And I want to just come down her neck here, get rid of the bubbles because the paint will go through the bubbles. And just there on her neck and her shoulder, and that's the strap of her top. And I haven't worked out yet whether I want a light top or a dark top, so hey ho, that gives me choices. If I want to keep her neck clean, got to have a clean neck everybody, I'm just coming down there and around here, and then that ensures that my paint will be safe. And I want to do the same around the shoulder here. So just swipe the mask around the shoulder like that. And that should ensure that the bits that are important to me that I keep clean will stay clean. And if I rinse my brush now and I just wipe it on a cloth, you will find that the soap has protected that perfectly, and suddenly I have a lovely clean brush back. So that's perfect. Now if you do have issues with that, you can simply buy something called masking fluid remover. It cleans the brush. It's fantastic stuff. I'm knocking stuff over. I'm just going in my cupboard. This is super duper masking fluid remover. It zest it, and it's called that because it is orange zest. It's the oil from orange zest. And all you need to do is stand your brush in that pot, and that turns masking fluid into jelly. It's wonderful. You get it from the SAA. SAA. Brilliant stuff. Love it. Cleans all your brushes, and you'd be very happy bunnies with that. Okay, now I need a big brush to go into this hair in the first instance, because there's a lot of it and I don't want to come unstuck with trying to wield a small brush and doing all these sort of fiddly bits. So nice big brush. This is my good old number 11. It's absolutely worn out. You can see it's round and it's blunt, doesn't matter. I've even knocked the end off it, look. But it's fabulous just for loading. If you want to, you can use a nice big half-hake brush. So I could, if I want to, come in there and even do it with that. No issue, but use the brush that's the right size for the job. And all I want to do here is work with the lightest colour this hair will be. The first thing that we're going to paint effectively is going to be the highlight. So I need to choose the palest colour, and we're going to do this by glazing it, laying one colour on top of another, on top of another. And this is how we're going to get a nice look to her hair. I think you're going to have to excuse me for 2 seconds, because I'm just going to have to pop a hairdryer on that, methinks, because otherwise it's not going to dry for me. And that will be an issue with the brush and the masking fluid, will it not? So here we go. I'm just putting my hairdryer into my plug socket. 2 seconds. And I've just bottled it. So I'm sorry for the noise. I'm not posh like Ali. I don't have a nice silent dryer. I might think about that one. There we are. Just enough to take the wet away from the masking fluid. We're going to start, everybody, with the quinacridone gold, and it's this bright colour, toffee, caramel, but when I put lots of water in it, look at that. I'm going to use it as thinly as that. Thin, thin, thin colour. Thin colour. So if I put that down here and add plenty of water, I can then come into my girl's hair and just put the finest wash over the whole lot. Too dark. Come back, just use water. And what I've done around the edges of her hair here, you can see that I have left all these little white hairs, and I've done that with my rigger brush. You've seen me use the rigger brush. So we just do that with the rigger. But for now, all I want to do is lay this in gently, gently. Don't worry if you come over the lines to start with. It's not important. You're just laying the colour in. And at this stage, brush strokes is a good thing. Don't worry about it, because the brush strokes will just become part of the hair and the movement of the hair. So I'm not worried about that. I just need to get this base colour in on her hair, just like this. The fine lines on the outside of her hair will become kind of backlit, sunlit strands of hair that are almost bleached out to white. So I often tend to just leave those. That's okay. The thing is, just everybody enjoy it, for goodness sake, you know, don't stress over it, just enjoy it. So I'm just doing that, and that's all I want to do for that first layer of hair. And again, I have to go in and I have to dry it. And I tell everybody I see at demonstrations, you've got to imagine that I'm behind you, because if I see you come into that and it's wet and you go back into it with wet, I'm going to smack your legs. It's naughty. This is glazing, and to be able to glaze, you have to make sure this is dry before you go anywhere near it with another coat of paint. So I'm just going to quickly zap it. Don't have a lot of zapping today, and I'm sorry about that, but please bear with me. I need to have it dry. If it's not dry, everybody, your problem then becomes when you lay the next layer of paint onto this, that will move. And I do not want it to, I absolutely do not want it to move. What I want to do now is come in with a smaller brush, and I'm going to use, this is another very well worn, this is number 8. Nice number 8. It's sable, and again it's lost its point. This is the new one, and that's the difference. They're both exactly the same brush. One is old and one is new. But I'm not really worried about the point for the next bit. Doesn't matter. Therefore, I can use this brush and I can use my nice big brush. So with the two of them together for the next bit. Okay, brushes are Rosemary's brushes, by the way. They're excellent, excellent, excellent value for the type of brush that we're working with for a sable. Okay, we're looking at her hair, and we're now going to think of it as being, she's wearing maybe a hat or a shawl or a cape. Where are the lights and the darks? All right, this is what we've got to think of. And we've got to work out where they're going to be. I want to mix up a slightly darker paint this time. And I want to use, this is the quinacridone gold. And I'm going to need quite a bit of it because I intend to go for it. So that's quinacridone gold in there. And I want to add, this is the burnt sienna, the two together. And the burnt sienna will make this slightly more orange. And then I want to add quite a bit of water again, because we need the paint to be thin enough to see through it, hence the glazing. I'll add 1, 2, 3 big brushes of water. You can use a pipette if you want to, that's fine. But make sure, here's number 5 coming, that the paint is quite thin, milk consistency, and that means that we can see through it, transparent paint. And this time now I'm going to think about where my lights and my darks would be. Her hair is coming out from her face and it's curving in towards me and then back into the distance behind her head. So that means that all around the edges of her hair would be dark to make it rounded, to take it round. If I take a brush full of this paint and the big brush, if I come up here, now this is where your blending techniques from the previous video will come into effect. And if I come up and I go round, don't do too much at once. Now I'm rinsing my brush and I'm going dab, dab on the cloth, and then I'm coming up through here and doing that. Rinse, dab, dab, come up, and I'm doing that. And that gives me the darkness on the back of her hair. I want to do it down the other side as well. So coming from here, down, round, like this. For argument's sake, the light is coming from behind her, and we have a light source which is here where you are as the camera, because otherwise she would just be in very, very neat silhouette. Rinse, dab, dab, come in and soften and blend. And if that line dries, we're up the creek, because it'll dry and it'll dry hard, so I don't want it to dry hard. There we go. Going to the smaller brush now, And this time I want to come in here and start really thinking about what's happening where. Under your ears, this hair here is always in dark shadow. So if I come in and I do this, little less paint, I'm throwing too much around, and I put the dark hair in there. I'm not really going to blend that because this piece of hair is coming out from here on top. So leave that for now. In this side, under this ear, we'd have dark there. And this time it would be dark around her neck. And it's also dark because it's going down behind her shoulder. And then you've got to decide, is that piece of hair on top of this? Yes, it is. So I'm going to do that. And how do we blend that? We rinse and we dab, dab, and then we come in and we soften that. Rinse and dab, dab, and then I have to come in this way and soften it that side, like that. So we've got this strange shape here. Don't worry about it for now. It will all make sense, trust me. This here, what goes on top of what? This is what we're trying to work out. So this piece of hair that comes down here is on top of this piece here. So under there, I'm going to put darkness, darker hair in there. And do you know something, everybody? There is no right and wrong way to do this at all. There just isn't. So you just look at this and decide which pieces you want to be on top of which bits. It's as simple as that. All right. Now let's do some logic work down here. I think that's on top, that's underneath that, and that's underneath that. So all we do in that instance is work our way down there logically. So we say if this is on top, we come in here and we go up and under and round there. And I rinse, dab, dab, come up and I blend like that. The one underneath, again, brush full of paint, we come in here and we get hold of that and we come round and we do that. And I rinse, dab, dab, come back and I do that. Now it's of interest that where you have shadow in a corner, where two angles meet, so there's one and there's that, 45 degrees, the shadow in a corner is never flat and straight, it curves. So you'll always have a triangle in a corner. It's the way it works. And I'm bringing that down there. Rinse, dab, dab, come back. And when you blend, as I said on the video, you always come into the side that you want to blend. Don't go into the paint and try and pull it out. Work on the side that you're blending. So let's explain that here. I'm coming down here. This is all still a bit damp. Don't touch it where it's wet. Trust me, it does not work. This chunk of hair is on top of this piece in here. So there's your triangle. And then that comes down and round. You only have to follow your pencil lines roughly, don't be a slave to it. And then come in, meet the paint, come into the paint saying, hello paint, my name's Brush and I'm going to stroke you. All right? Don't go in and bully it. So hello paint, my name's Brush and I'm going to stroke you. There you go, good stuff. All right, where are we dry now? I've got a little teeny bit of hair here and I think that this chunk is probably underneath this and underneath that. So if I load with paint and I come in here and I'm just going to make that area in there dark. As I say, don't worry about brush strokes, they're not important at this point in time. You just want to soften that because I made a bit of a scruffy edge. So the hair again divides here and we've got something going on here. So I'm coming in and I'm going to lay that in there and I'm going to just bring that round like that. And this time I rinse, dab, dab, and I come in this side to blend. Just soften it that side. Okay. we've got something going on here, and I think there's a whole piece of hair there which comes down and curves, and that is on top of what's underneath. This time I want to put shadow in on this side, and again rinse, dab, dab. And the reason for that is when I come back, I don't want to come back with dirt on my brush, with paint on my brush, and I don't want to come in with too much water, because the water is death to the paint that's there. And you see, having done that, it's now given us this piece as a layer on top, and that puts the shadow underneath. Yay! Okay, up here, let's sort this out. The hair comes from here, her widow's peak, and it's a piece out through here, and then you have this out through here, and this is the triangle that's underneath that goes over her crown. So I want to put shadow in there. So in there, there's your triangle, so round it off and pull it round. And this time, very cack-handed, rinse, dab, dab, I've got to come in from the above to blend it. No other way round it, everybody. That's just how life is. So you've still got, when it's dry, you'll still have a bit of highlight there. That's fine. And this is underneath that. So again, paint, come in, pop that in, round the corners off, rinse, dab, dab, and this time I come in that side and I blend it that way. Okay, so that's really layer number 2. Oh no, hang on, something going on here. This piece is underneath that. All right, let's do that just to make the point. So in there we have some shadow. Okie dokie. All right, so we've reached that stage and it's still a bit soggy. I can see something I've missed. This piece of hair is flowing in and down and underneath her shoulder here, and as a consequence that would be shaded where it goes in down behind her shoulder. So I've got to have shade in there, and for that one I come in and I've got to come from above to blend. You always know when your paper is nice and dry, because at the moment mine's still a bit cockled. If that was completely dry it would flatten again, so that's a good way to know when it's dry enough to go back. I'm just rushing because I don't want you to be watching paint drying. Okay, the next thing we need to consider is the fact that the hair, as well as being curved and going back round her head and one piece on top of another, because hair is strands, isn't it? You've got strands like this, one strand of hair which divides and becomes lots of strands, and it's full of triangles. All the triangles here where the strands divide, split and divide, and this is what we're going to do. It also undulates, so you've got the curve of the undulation, and this is where we're going to go next. We're looking at it and we're thinking about where is it low, where is it high. So let's start right at the top. This piece of hair is into her head and it comes out towards you and then back and over, back behind. So this here is darker than the highlight that would be here. So I want to come into there and do that and just soften. That was a huge brush of paint. So you see suddenly now that comes from in her forehead, up and out into the light and then back into the shadow. That's where we're going with it. This will be the same. So there will be a little bit of shadow around there. I stop there because it wouldn't make sense at that point. So I stop. Light against dark, dark against light. It's the law with paint. Light against dark, dark against light. Now, here's a perler for you. This piece of hair is coming out from underneath there, and then it takes a dip before it comes back into the light and back into shadow. So let's see what we can do with this, how we can make that undulate. Let's work from the bottom because it makes more sense down there. So down here, it's curving out into the sunlight, ooh, and into the shadow. Back out into the sunlight. So we're going to rinse, and I just want to soften and soften. If we work up the same piece of hair, it's coming out into the sunlight, into the shadow, back out into the sunlight. So this here would also be darker. And I rinse and I dab, and I do that, and I do that, and that gives me the highlight there and a highlight here. I'm now going to put a shadow in through there. I'm going to rinse, and I want to just soften that a bit and soften that. You see, it doesn't matter about your brush strokes with hair. They're all going to be obliterated underneath future layers, so it doesn't matter. This is all right now, so is this. We've done that bit. This is all right. I think what I might like to do here is this is coming out and up and then back down. So in here, I think we'd have shadow. And again, rinse and dab it. Soften, and then soften again, and then this piece here is coming out into the light, down into that little bit of a kink there, out and into a kink there. Alright, so blend and blend. Keep it clean, hygiene, hospitals, all that, particularly in this day and age, my word. When I'm painting her next year, I'll be painting her with a mask, I think. Now, this piece here, this comes out from here, under her ear, behind her ear, or round her ear, out into the daylight, into the shadow, and then out a little bit, a bit of light there. Okay. And it's giving you these bulges of light. These lovely light areas, and this is why I was saying to you we were painting the highlight in the first instance. So the highlight, now you're seeing it, you're seeing where it is. This piece here, even although it's on top of this, initially we're going to lose some of our definition, but it comes back, don't worry, we're going to be adding more. This comes from the dark into the light, into the light, into the light, and then just sort of swizzles off down round there. So it's still lighter than this, and I've just done that because there's more water in the wash, in the mix, that's all. But you've got this lovely highlight, and we're going to do the same with this. This piece comes from underneath this, but we've still got that on top of that. So I'm going to leave a slither of light, put that through there. It comes out into the light, curves into the shadow, and then comes back into the light. And honestly, I promise you, there's no right and wrong way of doing this. Just play with it. It becomes your hair then. No right and wrong way. All you're doing is giving that hair movement like this, and the fact that one piece is behind another. And that's what you're aiming for. I need to dry it again. So I'm sorry, here we go. We now need to go down to the next depth of tone. And to do that, I want to pick up now, we're just going to use the burnt sienna on its own. Lovely burnt sienna. And this time we're going to use exactly the same blending technique, and we're going to go into all the really dark crevices, and we're going to layer another depth into her hair. And to do that, to speed myself up, I'm going to use both brushes. And I want to use my lovely pointy one to put it on. And so let me mix myself up some paint, and this time I'm using the paint in a single cream to milk thickness. You need plenty of pigment for this, and because you're rinsing all the time, the problem with it is that an awful lot of your paint lands up in your water pot, and to stop that I'm going to use the two brushes so that I can put the paint on with one like this. And I'm going to do that, and then I can use the other brush to just mop away. And the reason for that is now I've still got the colour on this brush, and I'm not continually emptying it into my water pot. And this time I'm looking for all the really dark crevices in her hair. And I'm still coming in and blending in the way that I did previously, from above or below or on the side, but we need to come into all those little triangle-y bits and add some darks. And you're going to use the same lines that you used before, but you're going to be thinner with them. They're not going to be the thick, this wide. I'm coming in there with a little triangle, and this time I'm just running it through and round like that. And you're adding this extra depth. I'm going to do that. And then stay away from that because it's wet and that will just give me grief. So do something else. But I come in there and I gently put that in there. And again, soften and blend like that. Keep your brush clean. Remember to keep dipping. Got to keep dipping. And I want to come in. This will be quite dark, all of this here, because it's coming away from the light. So that would be right round up through there. Triangle, triangle. And this time we come in and we soften like this. There we are. And I want to come in, this is a dark area here. So there would be really quite hefty colour-wise. And so is that. Look at that in there. So do you see what I mean? I'm still seeing the lighter colour underneath, but I'm making sure that my darks are now really quite dark. And we need to go down to the tonal value that we have here. This is the point. You know, we're going to have to introduce even black darks into this hair, because you can't have it in one part of the painting and not in the rest of it. It would be so unbalanced. We need to be logical and sensible and balance it and make it pleasing to look at down here. So again, I'm going to get hold of that and just pull it up, because it all just becomes, you know, movement in the hair. I want to come into here and I'm going to just make a little bit of that darker in there, and I soften that by going both sides of it like that. We're making it up as we go along, everybody. That's the whole point, and that's the fun of it, because you don't really know who you're going to land up with looking out of the paper at you until you've finished your picture, and that's the fun of it. This is all something or nothing in here, so I want that to be really dark in there. I'm coming around. There we are. And I want to make this very dark in here, where it goes in underneath her shoulder. Bring it up to there, stop there, because otherwise you lose your tonal difference now. We've got to start thinking about that in some of these areas. And I want some of this to be quite dark in under here, so little bit. And that I'm going to come into, and I'm going to saw it like that. That's it. And I've got some on the brush. Pull it. Just pull it like that. And that will make some more hair movement on those light areas. So that's okay. This is all something or nothing round here. So what I want to do here is I'm going to put my dart. I'm trying desperately not to put my hand on anything that's wet. I want to come in there, put my triangle in there. I'm going to do that. And this pulling it movement, let's get hold of the colour. Well, I'm going to just soften and soften and soften. And then when I've got the colour on the brush, I'm going to just pull it through like this. And you must follow the line of the hair. So that piece of hair moves around here. So must your brush. So must your brush. It must follow that movement, that line. You can't go across it. It would look absolutely ludicrous. Doesn't make sense to your brain. Your brain's very clever. It knows what it's looking at. So that is the next layer with our burnt sienna. And what happens now if we take something even darker than that? I'm going to frighten you now because I'm going into burnt umber. next step here, look to the real darks first, real darks. So that's going to be pitchy in there. And again, I'm not covering all of the burnt sienna. I'm covering probably half of it. But I want to make that shade and that shadow even darker. In there, half of it. And if you're sitting at home thinking, oh lordy, this is boring, isn't it? Keep going over the same thing. But what you're doing is you're getting this beautiful graded shade, this blended shade. And it's the only way I've been able to teach myself to do this. I can't do this wet into wet. And if I did, I wouldn't like it. I like the control. I really, really like control over my painting. And for me, this is how I do it. And this is how I get the skin tones. It's all the same to me. And this is also how I would paint hillsides. And I would also use this technique for fabric if I'm painting material. All the same sort of idea. I want a bit of dark in there. Like that. And then whilst that's all wet and sitting there happily moseying away, I want to come into there and do that. And I'm just going to pull that down there a little bit. And this time we'll do the same thing. We'll come in, we're going to scumble the paint like that, and then we'll get hold of the colour and I'm going to pull it. It's just the residual on the brush, that's all it is. But can you see how that gives you the movement on the hair? Just gives you that bit of movement. We're going to do the same thing here. In that dark little pit there, where that hair is there, next to her face, behind her ear, pop it in, bring that up through there, and then get hold of this, pull the paint. Follow the shape that you've got. So I'm trying to do this and not get in your way. So follow the shape, curve it round, so that it makes sense. Give yourself the movement. We could do some of that up here, so let me just wet that again, and if I get hold of this, and again I pull that down and through. It's the one time that I will allow myself to make paint marks with a dirty brush. Up here into there, so again pop that into that edge, and then with the brush I rinse, I dab, I come in, I pick it up, and then, oh, I've got paint, so pull it round, follow the shape. Just follow the shape. So, I feel that a little bit of depth in here would be greatly appreciated because that's a dark area. So I'm going to do that. And I rinse and I dab, I come in and I pull it. Again, pull it. And if I've got any colour on there, have I don't know, but let's try it. Oh, that'll do. So now you're going to go off piste and you're now going to start improvising. Alright, you feel confident enough that you know that you've got your colours right, they're working, you're getting your depth in there, and this is where now you suddenly feel that you can get hold of that and you can pull that up. And now your brush marks are making hair. Don't lose your lights, try not to lose too much of your depth and your lights. So if I put a little bit of dark shadow in there, and I'm going to rinse and dab, get hold of that. And again, I've got dirty brush, pull it. If you're not confident, put your brush on a darker area first and pull it from the dark, and then that will give you more control. The neck I have to work out, because if I'm going to have shadow on that neck under the hair, that means the hair can't be dark. If there's light on the neck, then the hair has to be dark. So that means this side where the hair is laying on her neck, I'm going to leave it well alone so that it's nice and light. But on this side, I would come in there because the light would be on the neck and the tendons there. I want to make that dark to push it down behind. Just going to soften that. Okay. I want dark in here, don't I? Don't I ever? Look, in there, get hold of it, pull it through. And again, get hold of it and see if you can manipulate it and move it. This way we'll go back up the other way. If I put some dark down here, lovely dark against that light sky, and that's going to be a lovely light shoulder. If I come in there with my brush and I get hold of that, I'm going to pull that up the other way. I want a little bit of dark twitch in there, and I blend it first, and then I get hold of it and I can pull that up and through. I'm going to do the same up here. So a little bit of dark in there, like that. See the triangle idea again? And then come in, get a hold of it, smudge it, nudge it, budge it, and then we pull it round and through. Look, that gives you that nice motion and movement there on her hair. I need some real dark in here, don't I? If I come in here and I put that dark triangle in there, like that, and I rinse and I dab, and again I get hold of it. And I'm going to pull some of that round like this. Okay, so that gives us movement again. And I need something in here and in here. This doesn't read at all. So if I come in there and I make that dark in there, that will make that stand out so much more. I haven't got a problem with her head here and her hair growing from her face. Sometimes you do, and when that happens, I think I'll show you what to do here to ease the load, because it can look a bit strange. I don't want it to look as though she's got a hat on. So I do that and I pull it like that. That will do nicely. None of this is dark enough. Doesn't balance. So we're going to throw in some very thick paint. Come on, let's get it right, girl. I want to throw in some paint there, and this time I want to get hold of it. I'm going to pull that across inwards this way. And the most important thing is always remember that it's your darks that make your lights look light, and it's your lights that make your darks look dark. Here I need to do something here, so what I'm going to do is pull some more dark around through there, like that. And then we can think about maybe a little bit of darkness in there. Blend it. So blend it first, and if I go back to that, the other side, that brush is dirty and it's going to make a mess. I'm not doing that. I'm going to come in and I'll blend this side, and then if we've got anything residual we can pull it through, but there's not a lot there to shout about, so we won't be shouting about that today. This is not happening for me, so I need to work out what to do there. I'm going to do that and just make that a bit darker in there, so that things lay on top of things, and they should work, I hope. I hope. All right. So look at it, assess it, work out how it's looking. Is it doing what you want it to do? Do you need to add more? We could do with some more divisions in the hair. And to do that, we're looking at the triangles again. So let me just quickly, I'm using, I forgot to mention it to you, it's actually Bockingford. I'm using good old Bockingford. It's cheap and it's easy, and it just gives me everything I need on a paper. It blends very easily for me. I find some cotton papers for this kind of technique are incredibly thirsty, and I can't get the paint back out and to move. And whether that's failing on my part, I'm not sure, but I just find you need to use the right paper for the right job, and for me Bockingford's it. Right, £140 that is, so nothing spectacular. I said to you that I was going to show you what to do here. Now if you've got hair growing from the face, if you've got a hairline as I have, where the hair comes straight up and out from the face, you can soften all of that simply by taking a damp brush and come in and just nudge it. just nudge and budge the whole hairline to soften it. And it kind of puts the hair in the head rather than on it. That's not going to work very well. The paint's really taken well. My colleagues who are watching with me will know that this paper, I've actually had it for too long. It was from a demo piece last year, and my paint isn't blending as well as it should. But we can manage manfully, it's fine. The sizing's gone. It's been in the house too long. Paper's too old. And that's my fault. But hey ho, you never know until you start painting. And the learning process says that get on with it and see what you can do with it. Well, we're doing it. You and me together, we're doing it. I want to split some of the hair as it goes around her head, because it will also split and divide as it curves around the back of her skull. So therefore, with a piece like this big piece, split it, everybody. Bring in another triangle like that. Just divide it up. And again, gently, gently soften one side, one hard edge, one soft edge. And we can do that anywhere that we want to where it's going back over our head. So here, I think we'll put another little bit in there. And again, just soften one edge, keep the other edge hard. And if you want to, get hold of it and just pull that into the hair like that. All right, so you can still manipulate it and divide it and split it. I'm going to do the same in here. It gives your eyes something interesting to look at as the viewer. And you know, when all is said and done, that's exactly what you're doing, isn't it? You're painting this for other people to look at it and to want to see it. So in here, maybe where this hair comes down and comes together here, maybe from this point at some stage we did have a division in it. So we can do that. As I say, it just makes it all much more interesting to look at. This is a great big chunk of nothing, isn't it? So let's do something with that. Where I've already got this line from behind her ear, I'm going to get hold of that. I'm going to do that. So that's all right, we can do that. So it just splits it up. This is a big chunk of something. So again, just put the wrong brush in the paint, duh. You do get carried away with it, don't you? I do anyway, I don't know about you. I want to come up there, I'm going to do that. And you can decide which side you want to be soft and which side you want to be hard. And that's the same with fabric. If you look at all the folds in fabric, you'll see that one side is soft and the other is a hard blend. And this is exactly where you want to go with this. Folds on hillsides, all the same. All the same. In there, through there, let's bring it back to there. So all the time tweaking. Okay. Where it goes over her shoulder, it could potentially do that, couldn't it? We could land up with another little bit of shadow in there. So we get hold of that and we pull it up. And I'm actually going to follow that through, up through there. See, that's why you don't do it when it's wet, because you lose the definition and you lose the line. And if you want to, that's perfectly all right. But for me personally, don't like it. I like it to be a bit more organised. Oh, it's sad, isn't it? There you go, another triangle. In, pull it through down there. So how many tonal values do we have there now? We've got the very bright yellow, we have the yellow and the burnt sienna together, and then we've got the burnt sienna on its own, and now we're working with burnt umber. And I'm going to go down one more, because I need to bring all of this to that. Got to get there. got to make it balanced, got to make it easy, all right? If you've got a small figure, you don't need all these layers. You'd only need to do 3, okay? But because we're working here and we've got such a large figure, 3 would still look quite flat. So I need to have the extras. But for you, you'd be okay if you just went for the smaller option. Okay, and if you're painting a little tiny face like this, you only need to light and dark. Job done, bosh. Okay. Next thing I want to do here is come in now, and now we get really excitable with this, because this is Payne's Grey. And I know many people don't like it. If you don't like Payne's Grey, try something like French Ultramarine mixed with Burnt Umber. That's lovely. But I'm using the Payne's Grey, and it is Winsor & Newton's Artist, which means it bleeds into a blue. It's the same colour mix as indigo and neutral tint, same 3 colours mixed together, so it's bluer. Dark, dark, dark. There. And again, I'm not obliterating the Burnt Umber, I'm just making it a thinner layer. I've got paint on my brush, so I'm coming this time, I'm really going to use it. Alright, so now you're really going to start working the paint. Make the paint earn its money now. I want to come into all my really dark areas and make some sense of them. Little areas. And again, smooth it, paint on the brush, pull it. Okay, we've got this very dark area in down here, look, whack in there, that's all. Get hold of it, pull it back up, pull some of the strands up with the residual colour. Okay, so you're almost greying some of it. You're deadening the colour, you're neutralising it. Get hold of it, pull some of it. You need to make your darks look really dark now. In here, ooh, we need to get in there, look, so that there, in there. Bit at a time, don't let it dry, because if it dries, we're up the creek. It'll leave us hard lines, and I don't want that. So pull that through. And then I can now go into here and I can introduce that round there. I'm just going to blend that like that. And I want some dark in here. So in there, see all these little tips and nicks? They're just teeny tiny tips of the iceberg, but my goodness, they make a difference. There we are. How's that? I hope my hand's not in the way too much when I'm painting this. I'm sorry, I'm trying very hard to stay out of your way. And in there, get hold of it, pull it. I'm coming in there, I want to make that darker. I want to make that right, disappear right into there. And this time I'm going to get hold of it, I'm going to pull that up. And that's blunt and nasty, so just get hold of that, pull it down. Good stuff. Okay, we need to get up into here. So into there, that's a dark shadow in there. Triangle, there's our triangle. And a nice clean brush, we come in and we nudge it, we budge it, we smudge it, and then we pull it. Follow the curve. Follow the curve. I want to do a little bit of that in there. Just reiterating all those little areas. I've got colour on the brush now, so come into a dark area and pull it up through the light. Okay, dark in there. Get hold of it and smudge it, budge it, nudge it. Colour on the brush, pull it through. And it's almost not there, that colour on the brush, but it's enough to give that hint. I want dark in there. Next time you're out and about and your friend's got their hair behind their ears, or they've got a bob, have a little look and you'll see how dark the hair is up under the ears. It's really dark. I want to just introduce a little bit. Where am I going now? I want a little bit in there. So again, just that little triangle, get hold of it with a clean brush and pull it. Pull the shadow. Don't like that. Don't like the shape that's left. There you go, it's gone now. And you can see, can't you, where I need to be now, in there. For sure. Get hold of it. Smudge it. And then pull some of it down. Okay, I want some in there, in that dark area in there. I'm going to take a nice clean brush and come back to that, and from above, and then pull it. And I think that they're all, see, I don't like that blunt end, so we're going to extend it a little bit, pull it, and then we're just going to bleed it with the water so that it's not harsh and hard. That little triangle that I cut there, I'd like a little bit just to reinforce that a bit more, like that. And then I need to darken this. And you can see how it's becoming 3D, can't you? It's for sure, it's starting to work. There you go. And I want a little bit just nicked in there. And I think that we're doing all right, everybody. So when we do that, we get hold of it, pull it round, pull some of that up through there. Ooh, a bit down here, like that. And don't be afraid to work with two brushes. I'm jiggling my brushes all of the time. Just got to remember which one's rinse and which one isn't. Because trust me, it goes all horribly wrong if you muddle those up. There you go. But my paint isn't all landing up in the water pot. This is the point. All right, so if you feel that you've got enough definition through all of that and you're happy, you can then think about the refinements. I'm leaving all this because I've got to paint the outfit underneath. And what I will do is I will use masking fluid to pull these golden lines through onto the dark top, and then I can paint this area separately when I've got the clothes underneath. But at the moment, if I went into that with detail, it'd be a waste of time because I'd be messing it all up when I go for the outfit. Okay, the way it's worked and the way I'm going to leave it, I intend to leave it, is this side of the hair is much darker than this, and actually I shall leave it like that because then that will give the impression that this is more in shadow and maybe the light's coming from over here instead of, you know, head on. We haven't put any shadows in there yet. I would need to put shadows in on the face underneath the hair. That's a whole nother ball game and another story. But for now, what we need to do is look at this and seriously tweak it. This is right. All of this reads properly because it's dark against the light sky. This is light sky, and some of this is just hopeless because nothing is happening here for me at all. Therefore, I want to go back in with my burnt sienna, and just all I want to do is come in and tweak around those edges and give it a proper edge. So I just want to come in and soften and blend and run it through like that. And I'm going to do the same up round through here because it just doesn't stand out enough, does it? Doesn't make sense. There you go. And this little bit and this up here as well. So any of the colours that you've used, you can utilise those to just give yourself a bit more definition here and just blend it away. So that's okay. All right. And realistically, what we need to do now, this is the fiddly bit, this is the bit where you need to treat yourself to a nice cup of tea and a good bit of music on the old stereo or whatever, and you need a rigger brush. And I only have one rigger brush, and it's this. It's my 0 rigger brush, and again it's a rosemary. If you're using a rigger, I wouldn't contemplate a sable. I think that they are too soft. They just, when they come away from the paper, they're bent. And I need that spring in the brush so that I'm not constantly every time you paint, you don't want to come off the paper with a brush like that, because you've got to reshape it in the palette. So it's nice to have it spring back. And what we're going to do with this is go in with, we'll start with this burnt sienna, and we need our paint to be milk thickness, you know, the consistency of milk. And we're loading the whole brush. So you've got to put the whole of the brush into the paint. It's a reservoir, and that brush was designed to paint rigging by Turner to get a long straight line, so we don't want to run out. Therefore, put your brush down in the dark, and you're using it at 90 degrees to the paper, and you're going to pull that brush up and through to give yourself some hair. All right. And take it out of the dark, because you don't want the lines to show where you put the brush down on the paper. Don't do the whole piece of hair. I don't want you to go in there and be doing, you know, all of it, but I would like very much through some of the lighter areas to see this movement of hair. So you see, like this, a bit down the bottom, a bit up the top, and just 2 or 3 across the middle area. And I'm going to work my way, come out of the dark and up, follow the shape of the hair, the way it's moving. Don't do all of it. I'm bossy, aren't I? My husband will tell you I'm bossy. There you go, look. And just come through like this. And this is why you load the whole brush, so that you can put plenty of marks down on the paper without having to worry about reloading. Don't do all of it, just texture some of it. Load the whole brush, because this time I want to come in and through and round a little bit more. To put some across through there. Delicately, delicately. And I would work my hair this way. Some coming this way, some going back up. If you want to, there is absolutely no reason whatsoever why you couldn't do this with a very, very fine pen or pencil. But bear in mind that if you come in there and you're using coloured pencils, you won't be able to put the paint on top of it, because the pencil, the wax in the pencil or the oil will resist the paint. So that's just a point worth noting. But there's no reason at all why you couldn't do that with any of those other tools. There you go. There's no reason why you couldn't do all of this that we've done today with inks. It would work just as well, but bear in mind you need to get in quickly to blend. That's the point. You know, if you're confident with your inks, that's absolutely lovely, but the joy of inks is the fact that when you use them, you don't have to worry too much about things moving, because the ink is not going to move, is it? It goes on the paper and it stays there, it's permanent. So from that point of view, that's a real bonus. But if you make a mistake, there's no going back from it. Whereas, you know, with watercolour, you could potentially rinse some of it away or scrub some away. It's just horses for courses and what you're confident with. I'm just showing you my technique. It might not be your technique, but you never know, you might be able to develop this and turn it into something better for yourself. So that's all right, isn't it? Happy with that? Okay, pull that through there. This time I'm going to pull some back from the back of her head rather than pulling it up and round, just because I think that that will make it a little more interesting. Through here, like this, and the same here. I'd like a bit more through there so that it's not quite so light and bright. pull some through that way. I like my rigger brush. I do like my rigger brush. There you go. And some through from that way. And if you find it's easier, everybody, don't worry if you need to turn the work round so that you can get hold of it and manipulate it more easily. You can do that too. So we've done that with the mid-tone now, okay? So that's our mid-tone. What happens now if we go into that with our Payne's Grey? Now you can only do this from out of the dark areas. So come into areas that are dark like this. Just pull some little wisps of hair through. All right, some up from here. And I pull some from up through there. So you're just sneaking in those real darks. Don't put the brush down anywhere where it's light because it will mark and it will look wrong. So just bring it out of the dark. Sounds like something from a science fiction film, doesn't it? Come out of the dark, Luke. Oh, I love Star Wars, did you? Oh, I was a Star Wars child, I was. My dad was a real hero because there were days when our cinema was showing them all together and I dragged my dad to all 3 films for the afternoon. He thoroughly enjoyed it, bless him. My dad liked a good film. That's what dads are all about, isn't it, really? Loving their kids. There we go. So just a few little lines like that. So I hope that you're seeing that well enough on the old camera. I'm wondering if I can get you a little bit closer to her. You see where I'm going with these lines? This is crack-handed because I'm going to have to bring that up that way. But that's why the masking fluid's so useful. If you do get a line that you're not happy with, if you pull it down and through and you can see the start of it, just rub it with your finger and it'll blend it away. It'll smudge it and you won't see it so badly. It won't be a blob. And we're just texturising her head. And it's these little touches that make it look really quite real. I would also be thinking about using some of these colours to come through and pop some out into the background. We've got all these white light hairs where the sun's catching it. Some of those you can paint in, you can put them in with one of the golden colours, that would be nice. So if you were careful and delicate with it, and again using a brush like this, let's have a try. You can come in with your quinacridone gold and you can just lay some of those. Just go over them. You don't need to paint them exactly as they are, but just fracture the edges with some golds. That's it. So you've got the white and the gold there now. Let's do some on this side so that you can see where I'm going with it. I don't want to do any dry brush work with this because hair doesn't kind of break up and split and then start again. So I want that to be quite definite, and pull some out so that it's like this. But again, not too much. Enough to make it interesting. There you go. And we can, still got a dirty brush and I'm going straight into the Payne's Grey with the gold on the Payne's Grey, and from the dark coming out, and I'm just here and there going to put a few dark areas. Okay. Because your hair's fluffy. Your head is made up of millions of strands of hairs, so to be trying to paint it neatly and nicely as a cap is nonsense. So we've just got to pull some of that through there. But as I say, all of this area here I would work a lot more, but I want to get this done first. And finally, if you've got quite a few dark areas, I've got the SAA white here, it's the opaque white. And I don't put that on my palette, I don't like it on my palette. So this is Mr. Socks's Whiskers top to his cat milk. Did you know that's dearer than whiskey per millilitre? My husband didn't half chunter about it, I'll tell you. The cat drinks better than he does. I'm going to put a bit of my white into there, because this in your palette leaves a horrible white residue and it stays there. The chalky residue doesn't come off and it leaves this horrible mark, and you land up with white on your palette that you just can't get off. But if you use it in something like this on a piece of card, it does mean that you can just throw it away and the job's done, because reactivating this is hopeless. I never find it works as well if I've tried to reactivate it. I'm going to get rid of the dense colour, and I want to have a nice thin brush. I've got water on the ferrule, let's get rid of it. And now if I come into my light, my darker areas like this, and I just drop through some white hairs. This is catch light. This is where the light is glinting on her hair, because you can't have these really dark areas, they don't look right. So just pull a few white hairs up through the darker areas. And I do that everywhere. I do it on her eyelashes as well, so that you've got this little glint. So through here, and get rid of the hard edge just by softening it with your finger. Just gently, gently soften so that it's not this hard blob where you come away from it. Where you put the brush down in the first instance, you can get quite a hard line. So I don't want to do that. Come up and through, and then round through here. Just a few glints. I need some there, don't I? Just in there, through, on two, maybe three. That's it. And that will just make it ka-ching for you. So there we go. I hope that that has been some use. What we need to do now is take out our, this is my lovely little, it's such fun, it's Mask Away. And again, this is from the SAA, and it's just a piece of, it's plastic, and it looks like the stuff that we used to have on crepe-soled shoes. But rubbing this, I'm really quite hot now, having talked for an hour, I'm quite warm. I don't want to put sweaty fingers on my paper, but if I come in with this, it lifts off so easily, it's not true, and it just brings it right through, and gently, gently, I can lift that off, my girl. Bye for now, everybody.